Welcome everybody to another episode of vBrownBag Meet the Expert, today at the Cincinnati vMug. I'm here today with Jon Hildebrandt, did I say that right?
Yes.
Amazing. Jon, these videos are literally about how you got started in IT, so please introduce yourself first and then we'll get started on that.
Well, as Ariel mentioned, I'm Jon Hildebrandt. I'm currently working the day job title is Cloud Architect. I work for a service provider based out of its headquarters in Des Moines, but we have an office in the Kansas City area. So I'm a good distance away from my home stomping space at this particular point, being here in Cincinnati right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent. So first of all, I know that you are very active in the community. I think I've helped videotape you in opening keynotes and vWorld.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's opening acts? Yeah, that's where I remember seeing you first, and you've been a big proponent of the changing culture in companies. So first of all, I just want to say that it's really cool. I admire you a lot. But tell me how you started. Like, how did you get into IT?
All right. So the long story short, when I was younger, I think we were at that particular stage where we started to finally grow up with computers in the classroom. I can basically track back. There was always some sort of an Apple IIe or an Apple II GS sitting in the classroom somewhere, evident by the fact of my mastery over the game Oregon Trail back in the day. Hey, beat the developer scores multiple times on that game. But leading into that got me into, especially in high school, we get into BASIC programming. Mm-hmm. Once wrote an application in BASIC that, based off the matrice size, I exceeded the memory buffer of an Apple II GS. So it was a big database way back in the day.
Did you actually go like, what happened here?
Yeah, I had to look that up and realize that I had exceeded the buffers of an Apple II GS back then. So that spawned me realizing I wanted to get more into, at least at that particular point, programming. Well, I'm much more knowledgeable at this particular point to realize that programming wasn't necessarily for me. Especially when I got to college, I did a lot of, pure computer science major, so no business systems, no CIS components to it. Focused a lot on programming languages. So I'm more of a classically trained software engineer guy, mm-hmm. who, during the course of college, found a position working in the IT department at the school.
For that college?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and what that ended up spawning was the fact that I ended up finding out I like to do fixing problems. So if there's anything that gives you a leg up into consulting, is going to do problem tickets for emeritus faculty who really just don't care. Mm-hmm. I could tell a great story about one of the tickets being Java broken, can't play Jeopardy online, and having to fix that. So got into that and realized that I liked the system administration side of the equation. This was pre-Y2K, so Novell NetWare 3.1.1, just getting into the forefront of Windows NT 4.0, mm-hmm. and then graduated right around 2000 and got a position actually as a consultant at a healthcare software IT company in the Kansas City area, and did consulting for 6 years. We've had conversations. You're out of Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. I've spent way too much time in Pittsburgh based off of that. Mm-hmm. and I got to travel, mm-hmm. and do things like that. And things just kind of, you can only travel so long. Got off the road, and internally at the place that I worked at, started managing infrastructure systems internally. Well, I should preface that I did a lot of Citrix implementations. Okay. So NT 4.0 Terminal Services Edition, Citrix MetaFrame 1.8. I was certified in all that stuff.
You embraced it.
Yeah, that really doesn't help me now.
Did you finish the programming, the computer science major?
No. Yeah.
So because I want to ask this question, right? And it's something that has struck me when I went to college as well. There's no one that tells you, hey, system administrator is a career. Mm-hmm. Right? And I almost went into programming because I wanted to work with computers. Mm-hmm. And like you said, it's quite a different thing, right?
Yeah, like I said, it took me getting a position on campus to realize there was this other side of the equation.
And there's a lot of jobs for it as well.
Well, and then at that particular point, I mean, we're at the cusp of Windows 95, 98. Windows applications were breaking all over the place. Mm-hmm. Somebody needed to help fix the different stacks that they were working on. So ended up just getting into that, and then combined with dealing with faculty who basically want to treat you like the lowest common denominator on campus, you get to learn consulting skills that way. So I ended up building that, even though I was building software development, software engineering components in the background. I mean, I can go through a list of programming languages that I've seen that really don't net anybody anything right now, unless you're working on 30-year-old systems. Yeah. But I can say I've actually programmed something in Fortran 77.
Wow.
It doesn't help me in any regards at this point.
But at some point you said, you know what, this is not the life I want.
No.
So you dove in.
Keep that in your back pocket, though, that I did get in a little bit of classic software engineering training, because that'll come in later as we go down this track. So ended up going to work infrastructure for a while. A lot of internal turmoil. The group got absorbed into another group, absorbed into another group.
And I think you said you managed the group.
No, not in there. Not at that point. But the group I ended up, they had a hosting division, and I ended up being one of the prime engineers on that side. I mean, we're talking, you want to talk VM numbers. When I left, and this was 4 years ago, 50 to 60,000 virtual machines in there, and I've been told that it's about to eclipse 100,000 in there. That's where then I took some of that, when you have that many things, all right, you don't want to touch each individual object. Right. So this is where automation came into play. I was able to draw upon some of the management programming languages, like your PowerShells and things like that, draw upon classic programming implementations and constructs, and was able to start doing things internally that started to save a bunch of time. When one of the last things that I left that organization with is there was a series of 4 deployment scripts that in the prior year up to that point, the numbers were it had deployed 15,000 virtual machines in the environment, and cut the sheer amount of time and effort that the other persons within the different silos had to do to deploy a virtual machine. So, and then that led me to where I'm currently at, which is a lot of automation constructs masquerading as self-service cloud capabilities at a service provider. So that's a long story, but
no, but there's a lot of cool stuff in there that you can talk about, especially the experience of from yourself, from your point of view, as you went through these roles and this amazing scale and stuff. How did your mindset change? Like,
well, I'm going to say I got angrier and angrier as time went on. See, when you're responsible for 50,000 virtual machines, you're obviously your pager's going, well, boy, I dated myself by using the term pager. But you're constantly being notified, you're being woken up in the middle of the night to fix what ends up being like a level 3 type of stuff in the first place because somebody freaked out about it. So I wanted to get purely out of just the sysadministration components and focus more on process improvement in the form of then being able to write the code to make that happen. So that's where I made the jump because, well, I will say up front, you work for VMware. I'm going to probably not make you feel very well in this particular regards, but I was VCP certified, but I always claimed that it was vMotion certified professional because that's all I did outside of writing code for things was right-click, evacuate a host, update host, move things back. So I wanted to get more out of some of these skills and working on that project, building that framework for the automation components, set forth something that I wanted to do more towards that. Now we're 4 years into that experiment, and now I'm transitioning more towards public cloud technologies, doing a lot with things like Microsoft Azure Stack right now. And so it's just an interesting evolution to bounce around from classically trained programmer to system administrator to cloud person to doing all this stuff with the community. It's just awesome, but boy, wide spectrum journey.
Yeah. And tell me about those things that you've done with the community, because that's how I got to know you. And I think you're one of the people in the V community that has actually brought up a lot of good points around the transformation that companies have to go through.
Yeah, so right now I do a lot, the dreaded D word, DevOps. Just don't roll your eyes when you hear that. There is some good for that for organizations. But one of the things, especially now, over the last year, I've been doing a presentation. I did it for vBrownBag, your commitments last year. I completely changed the tone, being focused less on the technology and more on cultural, people, process aspect. And the fact that a lot of IT organizations, I consider them to be catastrophically broken. They don't move forward, they're stagnant, they don't go anywhere. And in return, a lot of the people that work within them also feel like they're not going anywhere either. So just trying to be able to jumpstart some conversations with individuals see what they're doing internally, see if they can start small in their organizations, and see if they can try to change behavior, which then in turn changes culture. So it's weird not focusing on the technical aspect, but it's really important to a lot of organizations. We're so focused on the technology, we forget the other.
And a lot of the professionals today that are feeling pressured. You know, they knew something, they know they have to change, but they look at their organizations and they go like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. So I'm going to make sure that when we publish this, I put some of your talks in the notes so people can see them.
Yeah. So from a personal aspect, we talk about like my own career and transforming for the community side. I got basically shoved into doing one vMug presentation on those scripts that I talked about previously. That was 3.5 years ago. I've been doing multiple presentations for user groups, upwards to, I keep applying to do bigger conferences and things like that, but to the point now, I'm traveling to other vMug user cons to give this presentation, where normally I thought I'd just be rooted in the town that I'm at. So, yeah, and then, well, you mentioned opening acts, things like that, just getting involved in some of those other communities. It's that other element that I've been able to add to my career path that has just taken it into a point where, the doors are open in so many different directions of where I want to take it, almost overwhelmingly to figure out exactly which direction I want to go.
Well, that's all. Honestly, I really admire you. I really love what you're doing. I'll make sure to put those in there. But before we leave, I want you to, if you have a blog, if you have a Twitter handle, how can people reach out to you?
Well, I'm pretty active on Twitter. The handle is @SnoopJ123. Don't ask about the name. I haven't bothered to change it.
Hold on. SnoopJ123.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Okay. Well, high school. Every little funny story has to begin in high school. So that was around the time, if you remember, in the mid to late, 91 to 95. So we had the advent of Dr. Dre and his infamous album. Then his cohort Snoop Doggy Dogg came out. I lived in Northeast Iowa, so it gets cold there, and I found the only stocking cap I could have, which was this atrocious blue-looking stocking cap. It just so happened to be the same type of one that Snoop Dogg was wearing in one of his videos at one particular point, and during the winter, I kept getting from friends called Snoop Johnny John. So when it came time to start making handle names for all the different, AIM, now that it's dead, long live AIM, and all those different
recently this is
social media components, the Snoop J with some varying degree of numbers, because I'm lazy when it comes to adding things onto the end of it, just came into play, and I've just embraced it and kept it, even though
you have to. If you change it now, all these things that you've done with keynotes and putting it there, it's not worth it.
It's boring to talk about, but it's all branding at this particular point, so you can't really change the brand all that much. But
that's a great story. I love it.
So @SnoopJ123, and also my blog site is snoopj.wordpress.com. I post some musings, things like that. Especially this last month, the Blogtober. So I actively tried to participate there. I don't do as many pure technical deep dives for blogging, but I do a lot of, I try to do think pieces, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
So,
very cool. Well, thank you so much.
No problem.
And again, really admire everything you're doing. Keep on rocking, man.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.